A fire broke out in a building in South Korea. Firefighter Kim fell from the building during the rescue. He held the girl he just saved tightly in his arms and crashed into the ground. In an instant, his whole life flashed before his eyes. Miraculously, he survived. He hurried to check on the girl, but no one answered him. Then, he heard someone calling his name. He turned to see two guys in black smiling and greeting him. He warned them it was dangerous, but was shocked to notice himself lying on the ground. His colleagues were grieving. It was clear he was dead. A girl named Lee told Kim that because he died heroically, he became an honorable paragon soul. They were 3 guardians of the afterlife who would defend him through 7 trials over 49 days. Another guy, Mark, said their leader, Gang Lim, was attending his funeral. Kim couldn't believe what was happening and shouted that he wasn't dead. Suddenly, his body rose into the air and was caught in a whirlpool. He kept begging to see his mom one last time. Guardians refused, but were touched by his love for Mom. In an instant, they arrived at another dimension, Gate of Afterlife, where people who died at the same time as him gathered. Gang Lim, a powerful leader who had reincarnated 47 souls in the past century, was already waiting. He warmly congratulated Kim on becoming a paragon, but Kim refused this honor. As they passed through the gate, guardians were shocked. Kim's first trial was murder hell. King Yama assigned the trial order starting from a light sin to a heavy sin. This meant murder was Kim's lightest crime. He panicked and denied ever harming anyone. Gang Lim explained that if his past actions influenced someone's death, he would still be charged. Suddenly, the ground beneath Kim's feet cracked open, revealing a deep pit of volcano. Souls who had committed murder during their lifetime were tortured inside. As a firefighter, Kim instinctively tried to help, but God of Murder stopped him. The trial began. Prosecutors accused Kim of abandoning his injured colleague, indirectly leading to his death. They requested that Kim must suffer in the volcano for 5 years. Kim lowered his head, speechless with guilt. Gang Lim defended him and requested further investigation. On the day of the fire, Kim tried his best to move the huge rock to rescue his trapped colleague. When his colleague realized he couldn't escape, he urged Kim to save others first. Because of this great decision, Kim saved exactly 8 lives that night. As he was about to return to the site to rescue his colleague, the building collapsed. This tragedy haunted him ever since. Considering his heroism, God decided to forgive his sins and allow him to move to the next trial. On the ferry across the River of Indolence, Kim wondered why guardians were working so hard to help him. Lee explained that they made a deal with Yama. If guardians helped 49 reincarnate souls over a century, Yama would reincarnate them as well. But during the process, if prosecutors managed to indict the souls, they would get promoted. So, for a normal soul to pass all trials in 49 days was next to impossible compared to paragons like Kim. The second trial was Indolence Hell, where lazy humans would be punished. Lee said Kim had worked hard all his life as a firefighter, often putting himself in tough situations. He destroyed a dangerous beehive, but got his whole team stung. He saved a poor kitten but accidentally broke its owner's Lamborghini. These all proved he never wasted his life. God of Indolence was touched and even wanted to erect a statue of him. She asked if he did these things to live each day to the fullest. However, Kim replied it was for money. God was furious and quickly changed her judgment, sending him to punishment. Below the cliff, a giant machine crushed all lazy souls. Even if they jumped into the river, piranhas would eat them. Guardians stopped the raft and begged God to hear the full story. After work, Kim did many part-time jobs to support his sick mother and his brother, who was studying for the bar exam. His body had suffered from overworking. God, with tears in her eyes, declared Kim innocent, because his desire for money wasn't selfish, but for his family. Later, Gang Lim scolded Kim for his careless answer to God, which nearly caused his trial to fail. Mark, knowing Kim wanted to see his mom again, explained that if he passed all trials, he could appear in her dream. Kim instantly felt motivated and promised to cooperate fully. Excited, they moved to the next location. But suddenly, monsters appeared in the forest, and time sped up. Guardians fought back, cutting the creatures into pieces. At a critical moment, Mark struck a massive stone pillar, blocking the monsters. Gang Lim explained that this meant Kim's family member had died and become a vengeful spirit, which could affect his trials. So he decided to visit Kim's family and find out the truth. At Kim's home, he found his mom alive, meaning Kim's brother, Soo-hong, had died and turned into a vengeful spirit. The spirit tried to flee when found. Gang Lim instantly chased him, throwing his whip, but him dodged. After a fierce fight, the spirit disappeared. Gang Lim followed its trail to a military base. There, he overheard soldiers talking about Soo-hong, calling him a deserter. Using his powers, he saw Soo-hong's past. Soo-hong was a kind man. He had cared for a mentally disabled soldier, Dong-yeon. Just then, a lieutenant and Dong-yeon were having a secret conversation, seemingly about Soo-hong's death. Gang Lim pretended to be a colonel and asked the lieutenant about Soo-hong. He demanded to know where Soo-hong was buried. The lieutenant, out of fear, started threatening Gang Lim. This confirmed he was involved in Soo-hong's death. Meanwhile, Kim reached the third trial, Deceit Hell. Prosecutors accused him of deceiving others through fake letters. Feeling guilty about his fallen colleague, he wrote 98 letters to the man's daughter, pretending to be her father. The girl waited at the door every day for her dad to return, which was cruel mental torture. God of Deceit ordered Kim to be tied up and prepared to cut out his tongue as punishment. Luckily, Lee used telepathy to contact the leader and defended Kim. It turned out Kim had also written fake letters to his mom for 15 years, claiming he had a happy life with a wife and son. These letters gave his sick mom hope and miraculously helped her recover. The Guardian argued that Kim wrote these fake letters to give desperate people the will to live, not to harm them. In the end, God forgave Kim. After the trial, Gang Lim lied, saying Kim's mom and brother were safe, which made Kim happy. But soon, he revealed to his team that Kim's brother had become a vengeful spirit. Gang Lim then returned to the day of Soo-hong's death and finally learned the truth. While on duty, Soo-hong was accidentally shot by Dong-yeon. He told Dong-yeon to radio the lieutenant for help. But when the lieutenant arrived, he chose to bury Soo-hong and destroy the evidence to protect his promotion. However, Soo-hong was only unconscious, not dead. He could have survived, but the lieutenant's selfishness cost him his life. Later, the lieutenant even searched Soo-hong's home, accusing him of desertion. Meanwhile, Kim arrived at the fourth trial, the Injustice Hell. This place punished those who refused to help others in need. But since Kim was a firefighter and a symbol of justice, he was exempt from judgment and allowed to move on. Along the way, he learned that only the leader had his memories intact, while the other Guardians' memories had been erased. Mark tried to stop Lee from revealing more, but accidentally let slip that Kim's brother had turned into a vengeful spirit. Kim was devastated. At the same time, Gang Lim felt sympathy. He wanted to dig up Soo-hong's body so his mother could know the whereabouts of her son. But this was against afterlife rules. If Guardians interfered with the living world, it would bring terrible consequences. The cable car broke down, and the team almost fell into the abyss. Luckily, Kim, a firefighter, threw a rope and saved them. Mark found the leader trying to stop him, but Gang Lim was determined to seek justice for Soo-hong, leading to a fierce fight. In the end, he promised to personally capture the vengeful spirit. Kim reached the fifth trial, Betrayal Hell. Beautiful god of betrayal trapped souls who betrayed faith in mirrors and shattered them as punishment. Since Kim had never betrayed anyone, he was allowed to move on without trial. At the same time, Gang Lim followed Dong-yeon to a bar. The vengeful spirit tried to kill Dong-yeon, but ran away when he saw the Guardian. They fought in the sky above the city. Gang Lim set a trap and tied him to a skyscraper. He told him to give up revenge to be reincarnated, or he would be destroyed forever. But Soo-hong's mind was filled with betrayal and the pain of being buried alive. He roared in rage, causing all the city lights to go out, and broke free. Dong-yeon, drowning in guilt, got drunk and went to Soo-hong's house. He bowed to Soo-hong's mother and secretly threw in a map before running away. The woman opened it and finally knew where her son was. Soo-hong watched everything from behind her. He went to the Guardian and said he had forgiven Dong-yeon. He begged him to save Dong-yeon, who wanted to end his pain. In return, he promised to do what he asked. Gang Lim once again broke afterlife rules to save Dongyeon. This put the team in danger again, but Kim used his firefighter skills to protect Guardians. Su Hong then asked the Guardian to act as a medium for one last talk with Dongyeon. He told him he had done nothing wrong and not to waste new tears on the past. The team arrived at the 6th trial, Violence Hell. They thought kind-hearted Kim would pass easily, but prosecutors accused him of beating his brother in high school. The worst part was that his brother was already weak from poverty and malnutrition. After the incident, neither of them had ever apologized or made peace. Kim even ran away from home and never returned. God of Violence judged him guilty and ordered his punishment. A deep pit opened under him, where souls were endlessly crushed by falling rocks. Guardians quickly asked their leader for help. Gang Lim made a risky decision. In regards to Kim's violence crimes, Guardians requested combined trial at the next trial, as they were closely related. If Kim was found guilty there, he would face double punishment, and the 3 Guardians would be stripped of their privileges. It was obviously a risky move. Unfortunately, they soon learned the truth about that night. Kim had lost all hope because of poverty and his sick mother. He thought the only way to end their suffering was death, but his brother woke up and saw him. Kim, in panic, beat him up instead. In the end, he couldn't go through with his plan and left home, carrying deep guilt. Since then, he had lived only for his mom and brother. Guardians felt hopeless. They knew Kim could never pass the trial, especially the final filial impiety hell. Just then, a sand blade suddenly flew toward them. Something had gone wrong in the living world again. Gang Lim took Su Hong to his body, so his soul could begin the reincarnation journey. When they reached the military camp, Su Hong was shocked to see his mom begging soldiers to find her son's body. The lieutenant, afraid of being exposed, ran over, tore up her sign, and even pushed her to the ground. Seeing his mom being bullied, Su Hong was furious and turned back into a vengeful spirit. He broke free and sent the leader flying with his power. His rage caused a tornado, lifting all the soldiers into the air. The terrified lieutenant tried to escape by car, but the spirit punished him severely. Gang Lim risked everything to save the innocent soldiers. In desperation, he summoned Mark to break the massive sand statue and rescue the lieutenant. But the spirit's anger still hadn't faded, even affecting the afterlife. Kim kept sinking into a sand pit, facing danger. Lee's desperate cries finally woke Su Hong up. Only then did he realize how much pain he had caused his elder brother. As his rage faded, the leader seized the moment to subdue him. Just as the sand in the afterlife settled, the final trial, filial impiety hell, appeared in the desert's center. Before Guardians could argue, Yama accused Kim of trying to kill his mom and beating his brother. He revealed that Kim's mom had witnessed everything that night, but remained silent. She believed her death would make her sons' lives easier. Yama angrily condemned Kim for trying to kill the one who gave him life and sentenced him to eternal punishment in the hell. Suddenly, the entire kingdom shook, and voices calling for Mom echoed. Gang Lim had used his superpower to let Su Hong meet his mom in her dream. Wearing a judge's robe, Su Hong told her he had gone to heaven and fulfilled his dream. He apologized for his brother and said Kim had worked non-stop for 15 years to support them out of guilt. Unexpectedly, the mute mom spoke. She said she never blamed her sons, but felt guilty for not being able to provide for them. Kim fell to his knees, crying. Moved by the scene, Yama decided not to punish Kim, as he had already received true forgiveness from his family. After surviving the 7 hell trials, Kim was granted reincarnation. He bowed deeply to Lee, thanking Guardians for protecting and guiding him, then disappeared into the light. Gang Lim then became a deliveryman and gave Kim's unsent letter to his mom. This time, it was an honest letter. Kim admitted he had no wife or children and longed to return to his family. The true culprit behind Su Hong's death was also punished. Their mom smiled with tears in her eyes, finally feeling at peace. Coincidentally, Su Hong became the team's 49th paragon, the last one they needed for their reincarnation. But since he once turned into a vengeful spirit and caused chaos in the living world, the warriors blocked him from entering the afterlife. Guardians and warriors fought fiercely in the desert. Suddenly, A sandstorm hit, and filial impiety hell appeared again. The leader asked Yama to judge Su Hong, who was wrongfully killed. The prosecutors insisted that Su Hong died by accident, so he didn't qualify for judgment. Guardians promised that if they couldn't prove Su Hong's wrongful death claim, they would accept any punishment. Yama agreed, but added one condition. Within 49 days of Su Hong's trial, the team had to ascend a soul, Mr. He. He had already reached his lifespan, but a powerful household god protected him, stopping any guardian from taking him to the afterlife. The leader sent Mark and Lee on this mission. They only needed to find the pot where humans worship the household god and destroy it. Then he would disappear. Mark soon found the pot in the dead's cabinet. Thinking it held holy water, he drank it. The household god appeared, grabbed the notice, and revealed it was just a piss pot. A fierce fight broke out in the house. Mark dodged around but couldn't fight back. In the end, he was pinned to the ground. The household god revealed that he was the guardian when Mark and Lee died a millennium ago. Realizing their memories were wiped completely, he sighed at Yama's cruelty. Hearing this, guardians became even more curious about their past. The household god explained that once the boy entered school in 40 days, he wouldn't stop them from ascending the old man. Meanwhile, Su Hong didn't understand why the leader insisted on helping him. He didn't want to be reincarnated and work like a dog. To make him feel the pain of hell, Gang Lim tied him up and threw him into the sea. Piranhas tore at his body. Just then, the team returned with news. After hearing the household god's request, Gang Lim agreed and told them to destroy the pot as soon as possible. They returned to the living world and watched the god 24/7. Surprisingly, when debt collectors came, the household god was very polite. It turned out that he could protect but not harm humans. Even worse, during the argument he accidentally touched filth and started to weaken. Guardians took the opportunity to propose a deal. They would wait until the boy started school and help him live on his own. In return, the household god had to help them regain their lost memories. Seeing the debt collectors getting more aggressive, he had no choice but to agree. Mark quickly punished the bullies. After settling the old man and the child, the household god kept his promise and told them about their past. Mark was the strongest warrior of the Goryeo era, guarding the northern border. Because he always wore a white wolf fur scarf, enemies called him the White Wolf. Lee was from a Jurchen tribe. The day after the attack, she hid the children deep inside a mountain, but when she went out for food, a tiger attacked her. At the critical moment, Mark shot an arrow and threw a spear, killing the tiger. He saved Lee and ordered her to take him to their hideout. When soldiers arrived, they were shocked to find only crying children. Out of mercy, Mark didn't kill them. Instead, he shared his food. Seeing his kindness, Lee grew to admire and appreciate him. Just then, another group of men stormed in with clubs. Mark knocked them all down without hesitation. But they weren't debt collectors. They were demolition crew hired by the government. Mark and Lee were confused. Under questioning, the household god explained why he took human form. The boy's mom died early, and his dad fled to the Philippines due to gambling debt. At the end of the old man's natural life, the demolition crew moved in, offering almost no compensation. At that time, the boy was also seriously ill. Desperate, the household god broke the rules and took human form to help the poor family. To secure the boy's future, he used the compensation money to invest in a fund, but lost half of it. Confident in the stock market, he took out a private loan to buy more, but now he was down 70%. Meanwhile, the leader was taking Su Hong to his hell trial. Since Su Hong only committed 2 crimes, refusing to accept death and becoming a vengeful spirit, and using violence against humans, he only needed to face the trials of injustice hell and violence hell. But Yama didn't make it easy. He set up many obstacles along the way. They encountered a 1,000-year-old sea beast in the ocean and long-extinct velociraptors in the desert. At a critical moment, a giant mosasaurus emerged from the ground and swallowed them whole. It would safely carry them to the end of betrayal hell. Inside the belly, Gang Lim asked Su Hong if he thought his death was due to betrayal by his comrades. Su Hong had already let go of his resentment. He believed that if his comrades had known he was still alive, they wouldn't have buried him like that. Hearing this, Gang Lim recalled his past. His father was a respected general of Goryeo, loved by all. As a boy, Gang Lim admired his father's bravery. His father also hoped his son would follow his step to become a general, but as war continued, their views began to differ. The general valued humanity, avoiding unnecessary killing, while Gang Lim valued principles and thought barbarians should be wiped out. During a battle against the Khitans, they found an orphan. Seeing a wounded horse, the boy felt sorry and chose to end its suffering. Seeing this, the general decided to adopt him, but Gang Lim disliked this new younger brother. He made things difficult for him in chess and combat training, but unexpectedly, the general favored the boy and patiently taught him martial arts at night. The boy quickly surpassed Gang Lim in all aspects. Gang Lim resented his father and grew jealous of the Khitan orphan. Years later, before a battle against the Yershins, the general ordered the younger brother to serve as the vanguard. He believed that while Gang Lim could win, the casualties would be higher. He couldn't accept unnecessary sacrifice. Gang Lim felt betrayed by his father and was both heartbroken and furious. Unfortunately, Goryeo suffered a crushing defeat, and the general died in battle. Gang Lim then took his father's position as the general. Out of personal spite, he secretly dispatched his brother to the most dangerous area. Before Gang Lim's memories were over, they arrived at Injustice Hell. Prosecutors accused Su Hong of disturbing the living world and asked God of Injustice to sentence him to 500 years frozen solid in ice. God wanted to check the evidence, but all his records disappeared after Su Hong became a vengeful spirit. Gang Lim suggested calling Dong Yun from the living world as a witness and summoned his soul to hell. Dong Yun suffered severe mental illness after accidentally killing his beloved senior. Seeing Su Hong again, he smiled for the first time in a long time. Gang Lim questioned if he knew Su Hong was still alive, but buried him anyway. Painful memories flooded Dong Yun's mind. That day, he saw Su Hong's hand moving, but the lieutenant ordered him to keep burying. Dong Yun was in pain but refused to tell the truth. Su Hong wanted to approach, but God locked him in a water tank. Dong Yun only said, "Forgive me," before disappearing, ending his life in the living world. With the witness dead, prosecutors charged Su Hong with murder. Gang Lim argued Su Hong's crimes had not been proven, and it was still possible that he died wrongfully. God decided to give him a chance and allowed him to move to the next trial. In Violence Hell, prosecutors presented evidence of Su Hong's crimes and accused the leader of causing the witness's death. Gang Lim begged God of Violence to withhold the ruling until the murder hell trial. If he failed to prove Su Hong was wrongfully killed, he would give up his guardianship and his chance at reincarnation. In exchange, he asked to summon the lieutenant and Yama as witnesses. God agreed. Meanwhile, after learning about their past, guardians started fulfilling their promise to secure the boy's future. They told Mr. He to pretend to be disabled and apply for government aid, but the staff saw through the lie. After hearing their story, the staff suggested sending the boy abroad for adoption. However, adoption required a legal guardian's signature. Mr. He refused to let the boy be adopted. So, the household god secretly went to court to apply as the boy's guardian. After a hearing, he gained guardianship. Now, they just had to wait for adoption. On their way home, they saw the demolition crew speeding away. At the house, everything was destroyed. The boy cried and called out to his unconscious grandfather. Suddenly, the household god collapsed in pain. The workers had smashed his pot, meaning he would soon disappear. In his final moments, he revealed more about the guardian's past. Since Mark saved Lee from a tiger, they grew closer. One day, Lee said her parents were killed by White Wolf. Mark froze. He was White Wolf. He didn't dare to ask for Lee's forgiveness. So, filled with guilt, he silently helped her and the children, even sharing military food with them. To the Jurchens, Mark was a savior, but to Goryeo, he was a traitor. Soon, Commander Mil-Gnag learned that Mark was stealing food. He led elite troops to attack his border guards. Under torture, his men revealed the Jurchens' hideout. Mil-Gnag then threw Mark into the mountains to be fed to wolves. After a night of brutal fighting, Mark barely survived. He used all his strength to reach the deep mountain, warning Lee and the children to escape. He stayed behind to stop the Goryeo soldiers. Before parting, he draped his white wolf fur over Lee and said, "I'm sorry." At that moment, Lee realized he was the man who killed her parents. She cried and hugged him tightly because she had forgiven his sins. Once Lee was safe in the woods, Mark waited calmly for the soldiers. At this point, guardians were deeply saddened. Mark asked the household god if MR.Y had killed him. The house god said, "No humans are innately bad. If you feel resentful, try to think everything backwards." When guardians looked back, he had vanished. The boy saw this and ran out crying. Mark noticed something written in the boy's notebook. Remembering the household god's words, he flipped the notebook. The name MR.Y turned into Gang Lim. Mi-yeon was Gang Lim. Mark was not only his subordinate, but also his younger brother, the Khitan orphan. Gang Lim furiously condemned him as a traitor. Mark begged him to spare the innocent children, saying unnecessary violence was also murder. Gang Lim remembered their father's favoritism. Enraged, he raised his sword against Mark. Suddenly, Lee appeared and stabbed Gang Lim in his belly, but Gang Lim quickly killed her. Moments later, he also collapsed. In the end, all three ended their tragic lives. Meanwhile, Soo-hong reached the final trial, murder hell. The lieutenant and Yama appeared as witnesses. Prosecutors asked the lieutenant if he knew Soo-hong was alive but still buried him. He stayed silent. Gang Lim ignored him and asked Yama why he offered him guardianship. A millennium ago, Yama and the household god found Gang Lim dying after committing murder. Yama ordered all the three to reincarnate 49 souls in a millennium, then he would reincarnate them in any form they desired. He then erased Mark and Lee's memories, but kept Gang Lim's. Yama explained he did this to give Gang Lim time to repent and seek forgiveness, but it left Gang Lim with endless guilt and pain. He spent every day with Mark and Lee, but never had the courage to apologize. He then explained that he saved the lieutenant to let him live and atone for his sins, not to become like him. His words triggered painful memories in the lieutenant. Gang Lim also mentioned his father, who died in battle. Yama angrily pointed out that his father wasn't killed in battle but murdered, and the one who hid it was Gang Lim himself. After the defeat, Gang Lim reached the battlefield and saw his injured father calling for help, but he turned away because he was afraid his talented brother would take his honor and power. By the time he regretted it and returned, his father had already died. This guilt haunted him for a millennium. He could never beg for his father's forgiveness, but the lieutenant still had a chance. Hearing this, the lieutenant finally faced his past. He admitted to killing Soo-hong and said he was sorry. Soo-hong nodded and forgave him. The lieutenant's long-held guilt was finally released. Since Soo-hong was proven wrongly killed, God of Murder allowed him to reincarnate. He saluted Gang Lim before vanishing into the light. Yama reminded Gang Lim there was still time. Mark and Lee hid nearby and secretly watched the whole trial. The team returned to the living world and tried to ascend the old man, but failed. Yama sentenced him to probation until the boy graduated, then would ascend him. Mark asked Lee if she would forgive the leader. Lee said she was no longer the girl from a millennium ago. Then she asked the same question. Mark looked back at the leader and said he didn't know the answer. Meanwhile, Yama stopped Soo-hong before he reincarnated and invited him to stay in the afterlife and work. This meant the team had to continue as guardians, waiting for the 49th soul. This time, the soul in need was Dong-yeon, who was also a paragon. Gang Lim planned to confess his sins and ask for their forgiveness, but they interrupted him, saying there was no need to care about something from a millennium ago. Everything was getting better. The stocks and funds the household god invested in also went up. The movie ended back on the battlefield 1,000 years ago. The previous Yama found the fallen general and invited him to govern the afterlife. Seeing his son in pain from guilt, the general thought it was all his fault. He agreed to Yama's request, but demanded to change his appearance to Yama's. It was his way of making up for his son.